Hi, this is Russ Ward reporting from the FDA conference, and I'm talking to John Mack from Pharma Marketing News. Hi John, how are you?
Hi Russell, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Good.
So John, we've understood that you've made a statement today. You've been involved in listening to the conference. How are you finding things? How are the proceedings going?
Well, it varies because there's a lot of repetition of people saying the same thing over and over again. But I think the main fact that they're trying to get across is that social media is very important to the public health and that the pharmaceutical industry can't ignore it anymore, and they need some guidelines to figure out how to best use social media to participate in the discussion.
Very good. And so in your presentation, you made us some very specific points. Would you like to sort of give us a synopsis of that at this point?
Sure. I've been surveying my readers, and they've been giving me some pretty good feedback on some specific suggestions. One of them, for example, is that perhaps if pharmaceutical companies are getting more involved in social media in general, they need to tell consumers what their social media policy is. And not just as consumers to obey some rules of the road, but they also have to tell them, here's the rules that we're going to abide by, and it may not just be what the FDA is requiring them to do, but really what they think is best practices.
So in general terms, do you think the consumer really understands this space and what's happening out there? I think you pick up on a lot of that with the sorts of comments that you make in general terms.
Are consumers picking up what pharma is doing out there?
What the complexities are with this FDA process that's happening?
I don't know if they're very tuned into what's happening here. It's a little bit maybe too technical for them. I know that they don't trust the pharmaceutical industry. The one consumer advocate that we had here was very adamant that everything that the pharmaceutical industry does on the internet needs to be regulated, and even down to the level of certain other sites that are independent of the pharmaceutical industry may be influenced by them, and they also need to make some kind of arrangement with the FDA. So consumers may not understand what the laws are and with requiring the pharmaceutical companies to do online, but I'm not sure that they're very interested in what the pharmaceutical industry has to say.
I see. So I know that my colleague Carl Turner has been listening to your presentation today and has some questions. Carl, would you like to come and just present some of these questions, and we'll let John answer them for us?
Today you made one of probably the most famous comments during the entire presentation when you said, tear this wiki down, talking about Google side wiki. I just wondered if you could expound upon that a little bit more, and whether you think that's actually a probability that Google would eliminate the side wiki for pharmaceutical websites.
Well, I think Google is here. They're going to be the last presenter, and they probably want to make a big showing being the last presenter. And I'm guessing that they might say something like that today. But I'm not advocating that they shut it down just for pharma. I'm saying that they should give pharma and everybody else the option to block it on the entire website, not just page by page, but block it if they want to, and just let the publishers and pharma, whoever else runs websites, decide if they want side wikis on their site, attached to their site. I don't think it's making pharma any money at all, Google any money at all to have this. And I see very few people using it, and it's really, giving a black eye to one of their biggest clients who buy a lot of advertising on Google. So I think it's not very good business sense.
Carl, any follow-on comments?
You have a lot of followers, so I'm sure there's a lot of people who want your perspective on what you thought was one of the most interesting or more interesting presentations of the day. Other than your own, which was very interesting, what did you feel was something that was really spot on and resonated?
Well, there were a few. I like the ones that really have some specific ideas for how to do things. I know that the pharmaceutical industry wants this one-click rule, but there was talk about how, after you make that click, where do you go? And some people suggested that maybe you go to the FDA site instead of the drug site. And the FDA then can be in control of what that click leads to. and which may be more interesting because FDA has a lot more information about a drug on its site. For example, all the warning letters that may have gone out, the Dear Doctor letters, everything like that, emerging issues with the drug. And I think that would be interesting. If the one-click rule leads to that place, I think that would be a good idea.
One last question. I know there's a lot of after-meeting events and things going on tonight. Are there any that you're geared up to go to, that you're going to make an appearance at, or that you think will be especially exciting?
I don't know about making an appearance, but I need to get away from these Twitter people and not go all these tweet-ups anymore. So I'm going to just go out and have some beers and some food with some friends afterwards, I think.
John, that's been a lot of fun for a few minutes. Before you go, do you want to make a final comment about today's proceedings?
Well, yeah, I just hope that it doesn't end the same way it ended in 1996, the last time I came to one of these meetings, which is nothing really happened afterwards except that people like me had to go out and start up a whole new organization to really carry forward some of the ideas we learned. And I hope that doesn't happen now. I think the FDA should take some real action. There were some good ideas about how the FDA could do this, and I hope that they take that advice.
Well, John, thank you very much. Carl, thank you for your time this afternoon. We look forward to hearing more from you, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
This is Russ Ward reporting from Pixels and Pills at the FDA conference.